So today I want to talk about part two on moral calculation, um, based on nature and observable reality as opposed to one's faith. Like I said before, this is not meant to contradict people's. Well, it does. I don't know if it'll contradict most faiths. It definitely won't contradict Christianity, but it's just a tool to help people negotiate moral issues, and having discussions and things of this nature, and basing it on principles and objective moral. Nature and observable reality, not necessarily the spiritual realm, even though this doesn't um, discount that. So last time I talked about morality. The goal of morality is to general well-being of men, both individually and corporately. Um, it's the individual that gets the corporate value instead of the corporate that gives the individual value. Like the human body gives this. It's unlike the. It's like the sales. It's like the human body gives the sales value, and if the corporate gives the individual value. But with us, it's the corporate that gives the individuals that get the corporate value, because it's the individuals that are important, and the corporate is there to serve the individual. And I said the major principle there was to have human life has human life. Humans have high intrinsic moral value, and people have different cutoffs for that. And I think the best place to cut this off, utilitarian speaking, is which you will see which has the best and worst trade-offs and outcomes, best based on the results of what this ideology does, and potentially can and does produce. But anyways, here we're going to talk about elements of the human design, um, as far as moral calculation. So, the basic. So we're going to deal with the individual. And then we're going to deal with the corporate. All right. So, anyway, so there's several aspects of the individual that we want to deal with. Then there's several aspects of the corporate. So, human beings are a tribal individuals that are a tribal species, and we have colonies like ant colonies, things of this nature. And we have tribes like individual sects within the society, right? So our colony was what we would consider society, right, or civilization or whatever. And then you have the individual family unit, and then you have as one of the tribes, and then the extended family. And then you have various other types of tribes other than the individual, the family unit. And then you have the individual. So I'm going to deal with the individual first, because the individual is the most complex aspect of this, and then we'll deal with the other several things. Well, I'll just deal with the tribe and the colony first. So when it comes to the colony is there to speak. Reason why is when you talk about the colony, like, ants have colonies and things of that nature, would have division of labor so they can flourish. Human beings can't flourish to the extent, there's no better situation than a healthy colony for a human being to flourish. Like, this is how you have technology and things of this nature, because of the colonies that we have. And one of the things that people say when you want to show how something's quote unquote immoral is if everybody does this and it's a colony, or even if it reaches a certain threshold in colony. It doesn't even need to be everybody. This can be a problem, and this can break down the society, and therefore, if you break down society, many people will pass away. Case in point, like, a lot of people nowadays are sick and are needing of certain technologies in order to survive. You don't have things like mass production and things like that without complex societies. All right. One video that is very good to watch is Milton Friedman's pencil. And when you look at what it takes to become a pencil, all these different individual moving parts in the market, you realize that you need complex societies to even get something like a pencil. So there's that. All right. So there's the colony. Then there's the tribe. People don't really focus on that much. And so this is why you have things like lying and lying and strife things of this nature that we will consider a problem because lying, strife, and things of that nature we would consider a problem. Even you can see considered theft a problem because if a lot of people did it, society will break down. All right, and you can say a lot of those same things when it comes to the individual family unit too, or individual tribes too. A lot of some and then you because you need to like especially when it comes to the family unit. The family unit is one of the most fundamental things you need in order to build a healthy society. Now, with that being said, you have a then you have the individual. All right. So the individual is probably the most complicated aspect of this. So with the individual, you have several parts of the individual. You have the logical, the emotional, and then then you have the body, and then you potentially have the spirit. Right. So the logical and emotional you can call it the human soul. Then you have the body, and then potentially you might have the spirit. Right. So the spirit is debatable for this discussion, even though I do believe it. But for this discussion, the spirit is debatable. And we're not really basing it on certain things that are beyond the natural. So we're not going to really talk much about the spirit. But I don't think if it's something that does exist, we need to factor it in our calculation. Now, with that being said, when it talks about the mental and emotional, you really want to be led by the logical, and then you have your emotions that motivate you, and then you have your appetites, which consist of your body, like your appetites for intimacy and your appetites for hunger, thirst, and things of this nature. You don't want to be ruled by that. All right. So let's just talk about the body for a second. So something that is destructive towards the body is a candidate for immoral, right? For it to be immoral, right? So like a lot of times, things like you can even say theft, homicide, assault. There's a little bit more to some of these things than that, but like a lot of times people be saying they'll say something like, "How is it hurting you?" in order to talk about how something is immoral. And what they're saying is a shorthand way of saying, "How is it destructive?" Right? How is it destructive? Because it's not necessarily about it's to cause you pain, even though I do think that factors in, but I just don't think it's necessarily that. It's more so how it's destructive, because pain is a signal. And what is that signal of? It's a signal that something needs to be dealt with for the most part, right? It's a signal because it's a signal that your body's responding to your environment in a certain way. And sometimes it's the environment that is a threat, and sometimes it's you need to deal with something. So, for example, if something hits you real hard and it hurts you, that's your environment that's probably antagonistic towards you. But if you touch somebody on the shoulder and it hurts real bad, then this is something that you need to deal with yourself, okay? Because it's like, okay, why is it hurt? Why you're not supposed to touch somebody's shoulder and it hurts? And you can say anything with emotional pain too. A lot of times people think because you hurt someone's feelings, that means you did something wrong. No, sometimes it's the person that needs to deal with those emotional things that, like if I say hi to somebody, or if I just walking down the street and someone gets emotional about me walking down the street, assuming that it's just nothing more to it than that, then that means that person has a problem and they need to deal with it. So pain is a signal that you need to deal with something. So it's not necessarily about it being painful, because if I start like lopping limbs off and it causes no pain, it still doesn't change the fact that it's highly destructive and detrimental to you, even though it's not causing you pain. So it's not just about feelings, and that's what people are overly focused on, how something makes you feel, as opposed to whether something is generally good for you or not. All right, so there's that. So that's the body, right? Then you have the logical, was what you use to calculate. So within the body, you have appetites, and the appetites are inherently selfish and potentially predatory. So this is why these things need to be be very I mean, it's not wrong. There should be a balance between selfishness and selflessness within the person, but these things need to be held highly in check because these things are potentially predatory, right? Because hunger, like when someone gets hungry, what does hunger do? It makes you prey on the thing that you need to eat, right? And when it comes to intimacy with that appetite, if it goes unchecked, can be also predatory too, because it's selfish. It's not. I'm not saying being selfish is wrong, but you know, it needs to be. There's like context. I mean, it doesn't need to be let loose. You have to put it like that. So then you have emotions, which emotions aren't necessarily selfish, but they're self-interested, meaning that you know they motivate you to do what's in your self-interest. Now, self-interest could be selfless or selfish. Like, you know, if I did something to make someone else happy, yes, it is my self-interest that I wanted them to be happy, but at the same time, it's not a selfish thing. I don't think. Generally speaking, I mean, you can't have selfish motives of that, but just we're just trying to make this thing kind of simple here. So without getting too um, wordy here. So you have that. So you have the emotions. Emotions serve a purpose. They're there to motivate you, and things of this nature. Anger is there to motivate you to protect, and you know, there's the fight or flight thing. So you know, you fight to what? Protect, right? And then um, fear is there for, you know, to also therefore in a healthy amount to motivate you to get out of danger, get you alert. When I was teaching someone how to drive once, I needed to be a little bit afraid so I can be alert and on edge, so I can pay attention to detail and things of this nature. Now, granted, if these things get out of balance, then now some people be like, "Well, you feel the way you feel." No, some these things have a healthy range to be in, because if somebody's just running around foaming at the mouth, angry, or running around scared of everything, this is you know, this can actually take a physical. The emotion itself can take a physical toll, let alone the mentality take a toll on you and the people around you. So there's that. Then you have the logic, which is the computing, which is how you calculate things. And this is inherently, I don't think this is selfish or self-interested. It's just is what it is, but it can be based on what's behind it. All right, like I said, I don't think it's inherently one way, but I just think I think it tends to be certain ways based on the emotions or your appetite or whatever else is behind it. Now, then you have the human will, and the human will is one of the most sacred aspects of the human being, where you have the violation of one's will is why you have certain things are wrong and otherwise wouldn't be. Like, that's the difference between theft and borrowing, right? Because you violate the will of the owner, right? Or you have something like SA versus consensual intimacy within the married couple, right? SA, no matter, like SA, we would consider wrong no matter what, but consensual intimacy within the married couple, we wouldn't consider wrong. All right, there's a huge difference between the two. All right, so and then this goes into things like self-defense and things of this nature, which are probably something I'm gonna get into in another thing when another video where I talk about human territorial needs. But these are the aspects of the human design that we use for moral calculation. So you have, and then on top of that, oh yeah, you have to consider these factors in the midst of the reality we live in. So, you know, the earth and the environment around us, and you know, so that would include the animals and plants and things of this nature. And if there's something supernatural, if there's supernatural forces that exist, we also need to consider those things too. I don't think automatically writing these things, supernatural forces, off is a logical thing to do. Now, I just don't, nor do I think automatically just believing that they exist is a healthy thing to do either. We need to consider the evidence and act accordingly. And here's the thing about God in this calculation, and I'm gonna just say this as a Christian person. If God can do nothing to you, or for, if God can or will do nothing to you or for you, He's irrelevant. Whatever God can do, the thing that is that will not, that doesn't have any effect on you is irrelevant, whether it exists or not. All right, that's just my. Now, I personally believe, since I'm a Christian, that God does affect things. So I don't think He's irrelevant, but I'm just saying as a general thing. So to the extent that these, so what my point in saying that is, to the extent that something supernatural is going to affect us, then I think that's the extent that we should consider it in certain calculations, right? Just like in any calculation, to the extent that that thing, whatever thing that you're factoring in is going to affect the thing that you're doing, it should be considered. So I don't consider how, like, when I'm writing, making this video, I'm not considering what somebody is thinking eating in China, because it has no effect on what I'm doing. But I will consider, like, the weather and the environment, because I might go out for a walk, or I might sit in my house and do this video or something like that. So this is just some basic stuff on moral calculation. The next video, I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna do human territorial needs, or talk about the healthiest ways to harness moral obligation. But anyways, that's all I really have to say. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.